Hello everyone. In this video, I am going to talk about NAT Gateway. Before that, let us understand what are the various types of subnet we have. As we know that we have two types of subnet, public subnet and private subnet. Public subnet is always connected to the internet with the help of internet gateway. But if a private subnet need an internet connection, in order to download some software, you need to use NAT Gateway. So NAT stands for Network Address Translation, and it is used when the private subnets need internet connection. Now let us go to the steps. So this is the diagram that we are going to implement. First of all, in an AWS environment, you need to have a VPC, which is Virtual Private Cloud. So what I'm going to do, I'm in the AWS Management Console and I'm going to create a Virtual Private Cloud, VPC. Select the VPC. The next step that you have to do is to click on Create VPC. Choose VPC only and name it as, let us say name it as VPC 1. After that, you have to provide CIDR range. In my case, it is 10.0.0.0/16. Once it is done, you have to click on Create VPC. So, we have implemented our first step. Let us see what is the next step. Next, you have to create two subnet. One is public and another one is private subnet. So you have to go to the subnet section, click on Create Subnet, select your VPC here. So I am selecting my VPC 1. Name it as, suppose that first of all I am creating public subnet. So I am naming it as public subnet. Then you have to provide your CIDR range. So I am giving it as 10.0.0.0/24. It means I am allocating 256 IPs to it. This is for my public subnet. Next, I am going to create private subnet. So I will here name it as private subnet. I will give some range here, 10.0.1.0/24. Once it is done, you have to click on Create Subnet. So now we have seen that we have completed our subnet. Next, let us see our third step. After that, what you have to do, in your public subnet, you have to implement the internet gateway and you have to create a route table for the public subnet. So what I will go here in the internet gateway section and I am going to create an internet gateway for public subnet. So click on Create Internet Gateway, name it as Public IZ. Click on Create Internet Gateway. The next thing that you have to do is you have to attach it to the VPC. Select Attach it to VPC. Select the VPC 1. Click on Attach Internet Gateway. Once this thing is done, the next step is to create a route table. So I am creating a route table. Here I am creating a public route table. So I will name it as public route table. Select my VPC, which is this one, and click on Create Route Table. Now you can see in the diagram that this route table is connected to the public subnet only. So what I am going to do, I am going to connect the public subnet. So click on Subnet Association, click on Edit Subnet Association and select here the public subnet. Save association and it's done. You can see public subnet is associated. The next step is to edit the routes. Edit routes. Here you have to add one route. So add route, make it anywhere, And here you have to select the internet gateway. Public IC and click on Save Changes. Once this is configured, the next step will be go into your private subnet and you have to create a route table for private subnet. So I'm going to route table, create route table, and here it is for my private subnet. So I am making it as private RT. Select the VPC here. Click on create route table. The next step is to attach this route table to the private subnet. So what I will do, I will go to subnet association, click on edit subnet association and select here the private subnet. Once this thing is done, the next step that we have to do is we have to create two EC2 instances. But before that, we have to create one internet gateway in the public subnet so that we can access the internet in private subnet. Remember that it is a one-way path, means private subnet can access the internet, download the file, but from the other end, no other user can visit this private subnet. So what I will do, I will go to the NAT Gateway, click on Create NAT Gateway. Now here, give your NAT Gateway the name. So I am naming it as NAT. Subnet that I have to select. So in the diagram you can see it is associated with the public subnet. So what I will do, I will select here public subnet. Connectivity type will also be public. And here we need one elastic IP. So what you have to do? Click on allocate an elastic IP. Once it is done, you have to click on create NAT gateway. Now you have to inform your private route table that we have an internet gateway. So what I will going to do, I will go to the route table and in the private route table, click on edit routes and here inform that you have an NAT gateway. So what I will do, click on add route, select here anywhere and select here NAT gateway. Next, click on save changes. Once this part is done, the next thing that we have to do is create two EC2 in each of the subnet, which is public and private. So what I will do, I will search here EC2. You have to go to instances running, click on launch instance, give it a name. So this is my public EC2. The next thing is you have to select your AMI. So in my experiment, I am using Ubuntu. Instance type is t2.micro, which is available in free tier. Key pair login you have to create. So click on create new key pair. Now give it the name. So I am giving the name as NAT public. Click on create key pair. Next, what you have to do, you have to edit the network settings here. So click on edit. By default, it is selected default VPC. Now what you have to do, you have to select the VPC that you have created and the subnet will be public. And you have to enable something called as public IP. So what I will do, I will click on enable. And in the security group, what you have to do, you have to add one more security group, which is the HTTP port. So what I will do, add security group rule. Here, I'm selecting the HTTP, which is port 80, and the source type will be anywhere. Once this thing is done, what you will be doing? Go to the advanced detail and you have to go to the user data section and fill these details. So all this thing that I am pasting it here will be available in description. Once this thing is done, what you have to do? You have to just click on launch instance. Now we have created the EC2 instance in public subnet. Next, what I will do? I will create EC2 instance in private subnet. So click on launch instance. Name it as private. The AMI will be Ubuntu. Instance time leave as it is. Keep your login. I am going to use the NAT one that we have just created. So I will selecting here NAT public. So where it is, this one. In the network setting, I am going to edit. Currently it is default, so I will select to the VPC one, and the subnet will be private subnet. The third thing will be disabled because we don't want any other person to access our private subnet. So make it disable and rest leave as it is. Once it is done, you have to click on launch instance. Now I have created two instances, public and private EC2. The next thing that I have to do is log in into the public EC2. So what I will do, I will select it here. But before that, let us check is it working or not. So I will copy the IP address and let me just test it here. Here you can see it is working. So next thing what I will do, I will click on public and then connect. Now you have to open your CMD and here you have to write WSL. Remember that if you don't have WSL installed, you can use this command in order to install WSL in your Windows machine. So WSL --- install. Once it is installed, what you have to do? You have to open WSL on your Windows CMD. Now it's done. Let me just clear it. Now we know that our PEM file or our private key is present in download folder. So what I will do, I will move that key to this folder. So the command that I'm going to use is this. Move the location, and here I'm moving the key into this region. Now press enter. Once this thing is done, now what you have to do, you have to enable the permissions here. So the command that I'm going to use is this one, chmod 400. So let me write chmod 400 and then the location. So this is my location, NAT public.pem. Click on enter. Once you have enabled the permissions, next thing you have to do is you have to SSH into the public subnet of EC2. So what I will do, I will just copy this command and paste it here. But before that, what the things you have to change it here is, you just have to add one tilde sign and one slash sign in order to detect the path correctly. Once it is done, click on enter. Click on S. I have logged into my public EC2. Now let's clear the screen. Now what we have to do, we have to open a new CMD. So what I will do, I will open a new CMD here. And in this new CMD, what I'm going to do is, let me just adjust the size. Okay. So here what I'm going to do, I'm going to do WSL. And here the first thing, I want to view the content of the key file. So I will do cat and I will paste the name here. So what is my name? NAT public.pem. Click on enter. And this is my content of the key. So what I will do, I will just copy this content here. So let me copy the content. This keys. Once the content has been copied, the next step is to go to your EC2 instance, which you have connected. Here, what you have to do, here you have to create a file with the same name. So what I will do touch NAT dash public.pem. Once it is here, next what you have to do, you have to open that file. So vi nat dash public.pem. Click on enter. Now here it's saying that already exists. So what you have to do, you just have to edit anyway. Now paste the content. So Control V. Once it is done, you have to press enter and colon WQ. Press enter. Now it's done. The next thing that you have to do is you have to log in into the private EC2 instance from here. So let me go to my private EC2 instance here. Click on connect. Just copy this thing. Go here. Type the same thing and press enter. Now here you can see you are showing the permission error. So the thing that you have to do is you have to allow the permission. So let me just copy the chmod command. It's done. The next thing you have to do SSH. So here you can see you are logging into the private EC2 instance. Now let me just clear this thing. Now if you want to test this out that it has internet connection or not, what you have to do? Just use any command like this. Now I am installing here Python 3. Before that, let us update this system. So sudo apt update. Now you can see it is updating the whole system. The next thing that I have to do, I am installing the Python 3 in the private EC2. So what I will write, let me clear it first, sudo apt install Python 3. That's it. So this is the command you need in order to install Python 3. Now we have seen that what is the use case of NAT Gateway. It helps the private EC2 instance to connect to the internet. If you have liked this video, do subscribe and watch other contents in our AWS playlist.